Many people consider land registration and getting a land title certificate for your land as the ultimate when it comes to land ownership security or the safest way to protect your interests in land. However, because of the structural challenges and the inefficiencies that sometimes characterize our land administration system in Ghana, taking physical possession of your land right after purchasing it can be as important as registering the land. So, what does taking physical possession of land even mean, or what does it entail to take physical possession of your land? So, by taking physical possession of your land, you are demonstrating that you are in control of that land so that others can identify you as the owner or others can associate you with the land. So, the most obvious way to demonstrate such control or take possession of your land is to put up a building on a land and live in the building. But sometimes, right after buying the land, you may not have the money to begin any building project. So, what some people do is to construct a fence wall to secure the boundaries of the land. But sometimes the land you buy is already fenced, or you may not even have the money to construct the fence wall. So some people go further to build a simple room for a caretaker, or you can begin to farm, begin a small farm on the land at least. Some people even pour a track of sand and gravels on the land to demonstrate such control. So the point is that you need to demonstrate that you are in control of that piece of land so that others, especially the neighbors in the area, can identify you as the owner of that piece of land and in fact testify to the fact that you are the owner when the need arises. And as I said, that act of demonstrating control can be as important as registering the land. So this point I make, or this position, is actually supported by a decision by the Supreme Court of Ghana in a case involving My Boy and others versus Ajay Ajeti and others. And according to the case, My Boy and others were actually siblings. And in their name, their late father purchased a piece of land somewhere around the Teshi Lungwa area in the 1960s. So at the time their father purchased the land in their name, they were actually minors and they left the land unattended to for a period of time, a protracted period of time. So during that time, some people trespassed on the land and occupied the land. After many years, the siblings tried to repossess the land, and the occupants of the land at the time challenged their ownership. So at the time, the siblings hurriedly procured a land title certificate to secure their ownership of that piece of land or to prove their ownership of that piece of land. But the case eventually ended up in court. So the case began at the High Court. And as I said, the siblings were the plaintiffs. They filed the case in court. And the High Court actually agreed with them that they were the bona fide owners of that land. Then the defendants, that's the squatters or those who trespassed on the land and are the occupants, were the occupants at the time, they appealed at the Court of Appeal. Again, the Court of Appeal agreed with the siblings that they were the actual owners of that land. Then these defendants appealed again at the Supreme Court. And it was at the Supreme Court that the court reversed the decision of the High Court and the Court of Appeal that the squatters or those who trespassed on the land, they were the right owners of that land. So the Supreme Court actually held that the trial judge and the Court of Appeal erred in failing to hold the defendants to be in adverse possession for more than a period of 12 years, thus extinguishing the plaintiff's title, if any, in the land in dispute. From the foregoing, we hold that the plaintiff's action is statute barred under Section 10, Clause 1 of the Limitation Act 1972. The appeal succeeds on this ground. Again, the Supreme Court also held that the land title certificates, that's the plaintiffs procured, was fraudulently done. And so it was null and void. And they actually instructed the land registrar to cancel the land title certificate that they had as proof of their ownership. So in essence, the court was saying that because the squatters or the trespassers were in possession of the land for a period of 12 years, while the main owners, the siblings, left the land unattended to for that period for 12 years and above, then in the law in Ghana, specifically the Limitations Act, restricted them from retaking possession of that land. And so in the end, the Supreme Court said that the squatters or the trespassers who were occupying the land at the time were the rightful owners. So what can we learn from this case? First of all, as I said from the beginning, it's important that you take possession of your land right after purchasing the land. Even if you are not occupying the land at the moment, you need to demonstrate that you are in control of that land. So that when squatters or trespassers enter your land, you need to assert your ownership and let them know that you are the rightful owner of that land. So you may not need to sack squatters or trespassers who come on your land. Sometimes it can be the caretakers of your land, but it's important to let them know that you are the rightful owner. So this kind of scenario is quite common in fitting or mechanic shop. So in Ghana, a lot of mechanic shop begin by trespassing on people's lands. So if you're a landowner, you need to be aware of this. The second thing we can learn from this case is that the according to the law, the Limitations Act, if you leave your land unattended to for a period of 12 years or more, then the law treats it as that you've abandoned the land or you've given up on the land, especially when there are people, occupants on the land. So the law deems them to be in adverse possession, as we saw in the Supreme Court ruling. Also, we can also learn that just because you have a land title certificate for your land does not mean that your ownership cannot be challenged. So, as we saw in the case, the Supreme Court declared that the land title certificate the siblings had was actually fraudulently procured, and so it's had to they declared it as null and void, and they instructed the land registrar to cancel it. So, as a landowner, you have to be aware of this too. So I believe you've learned something from this video. As always, don't forget to like the video, share to others, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.